Holly, just turn your camera on,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
All right, we're gonna start with you, Dr. Pressey.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. J.B. Pressey. I will be your host for this event this evening. I have been working directly with change makers of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and have been supporting them since day one. I'm also currently on their board of directors. You can learn more about their non-for-profit on their webpage, which is the official changemakers.org. I have been in the movement for justice, freedom, and equality for several decades now. And I'm very proud to mentor these two dynamic, bold, and courageous fighters in the city of Fort Wayne and throughout this nation. The torch has been lit, and they are carrying it mightily. This evening's candidates conversation is in response to many years of neglect of the Black voters. Our ancestors have sacrificed their lives to vote, and their reward has been a glaring slap in the face looking at today's voter suppression that's going on throughout this nation. We will no longer allow our vote to mean nothing and to have no power. Our votes have power, our voices have power, and this conversation is a contrast between our community and our potential. You are accountable to your campaign promises. In 2018, the Black Futures Lab launched the Black Census Project, which was the largest survey of Black people conducted in the United States in over 155 years. Over 30,000 Black people in all 50 states participated, and they provided their insightful views, their opinions about politics, about our society, and the opportunities and challenges facing the Black community and this nation. The information gathered through the Black Census amplified the concerns and the aspirations of most politically and civically engaged Black adults in the United States. It revealed issues that were very critical to engaging, activating, and strengthening the Black community in the years ahead. With the Black Census Poll and the Well-Informed Black Agenda, we anticipate this information to our local area to better understand what we would need from our politicians. While there are and will be many Black agendas, because the Black community and Black people, because Black people are not a monolithic, and because we are asking that our community derive from our Black agenda the 6 policy areas that are important to us. The Black Census respondents deemed most urgent. If anyone has any questions regarding the Black agenda, the Black Census after this panel discussion tonight, feel free to contact Changemakers Fort Wayne at gmail.com. With all that said and done, we're going to get right in to the heart of the matter while we're here this evening. Our first interview will be conducted by one of the co-founders of Changemakers, Delana Saunders, and she will be interviewing Jorge Fernandez, and he is running for the Allen County Commissioners District 3. Can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Pressey. I'm so sorry we were on mute, but we're so excited for the learning that's going to be happening this evening. And I wanted to reiterate something that Dr. Pressey said that's so important and so pressing this evening, but the Black census pose was well informed in the Black agenda that was adapted. We adapted the information for our local area so that we could better understand what we would need from our politicians. While there and will be many Black agendas, the Black information derived from the Black agenda's 6 policy areas, the Black census response is deemed most urgent. If anyone has questions, and you probably will have questions about this, please email us about this and we can have a conversation about it. But Jorge is a friend of ours and he has been in the community for so long. He has so much information to share with us. Jorge, are you ready?
Yep.
Jorge is always ready. We're gonna jump right into it, Jorge. For so long, this is a question that we're gonna ask all of our potential politicians this evening. For so long, the Black community has been neglected. As an elected official, what will your capacity be? And how will you be able to wield power to help the Black community?
Well, as county commissioner, District 3, you first of all, you're running for election for the entire county, and so it's on everyone's ballot. There's 3 county commissioner seats. 2 of them are up this year. The one I'm going for is currently held by Rich Beck, and engagement is a key component. Being transparent, being available to all the constituents in this county. I think for too long, Southeast side Fort Wayne, it has, especially has been neglected by policymakers on every level. I think, which is an area, that is largely persons of color, made up of largely persons of color. And, we've seen, throughout this county, persons of color neglected. And I think the commissioners like to focus on, the outside areas, but they represent the whole county. Everyone in the county, they're supposed to represent. And I think when we're appointing people on boards, we need to look at people that represent the entire county, not just, areas outside the county. Yes, those are important. They're constituents, they're important, but so are the areas within Fort Wayne, part of the county, okay? So, somebody that is in Woodburn, it should be just as much as a priority as someone who lives in, Southeast Fort Wayne. So we need to make sure, especially with communities that have historically been neglected, that we are making sure that they are, represented in our board appointments, that we are giving opportunities for them to speak. I think the meetings the county commissioners have been having, where they're like 10 minutes on a Friday morning, is not understanding of or doesn't allow a broad array of people to give input, including people that are working 9-to-5 jobs. And I think regardless whether where you live, I think that's a problem, okay? Because I think, there's people that just can't come to these meetings and, participate, even though they would want to, just because of their condition, regardless of where they live in the county. So that's something I want to change. Make the county more accessible. Have meetings at various times. If even if one of the commissioners, 2 of the commissioners can't be at the meetings, have somebody there to get feedback. That shows that you're listening. Okay. Yes, we know that the county commissioners have emails and people can email them, but give other opportunities for people to give input besides that, and show that you're listening.
Yes. Thanks so much for that answer.
Yeah.
So we would like to know more about this position. Would you be a part-time or a full-time commissioner? Are you paid? What is the commitment like for this position?
This is a full-time position, and so right now I work as an educator, and I would be moving into this different position. And right now the position I'm working in as a educator in public school districts allows me that, because I'm working as filling in for teachers that left for the school year. And I'll probably do that next school year as well, because, there's so many there's such a teacher shortage. But it's a full-time job. And I don't think the county commissioners treat it like a full-time job, even though they're getting paid like a full-time job. It's the compensation for the commissioners, just like public elected officials in general, is available on in Indiana Gateway, and it's about $80,000 a year. So for that, you would expect, I think, more than just 10-minute meetings on a Friday morning. And obviously, there's closed door meetings that must be happening, since this jail project seems to be going through. They seem to be making moves towards that. With I think they've already approved some design money for it. But there's not been a whole lot of public conversation among the commissioners, from what I've seen, since the ruling has come down on the jail.
All right. So can you explain to the people? A lot of people don't even understand what a commissioner does, or what their capacity is. What does a commissioner do?
So this is a area of the local government that kind of varies by place, and I think that's what why it's kind of a struggle. The state house, the Indiana State House, has made, like, every county has made counties different in how their local government officials, what they can do, what powers they have, how they're elected. And some of that seems to be because, to keep certain people in power. I mean, in this county, we elect them, the county commissioners countywide. What, other counties, interestingly, they elect them in districts, and that seems to favor kind of candidates that or possibly favor candidates that they like. They like to kind of ones that have certain political leanings seem to be treated differently, let's say. And the county commissioners are like, they have sort of like a mayor of the county. They have more power in unincorporated areas. There's certain things that the city of Fort Wayne can do, like as far as zoning. They have powers in the unincorporated areas that they don't have in the city. But there's things that affect the entire county. That's why they're elected by everyone in the county. Everyone in the county pays county property taxes. If you're paying property taxes, some are getting, county council is responsible for. I shouldn't jump ahead to county council, but the commissioners, legislative ordinances, they can contracts, because they're the legislative government unit of the entire county. Ones that, things that involve the entire county, like the jail, are with it, something that they cover. The Allen County Health Board. So, the Board of Health deciding, supervising whether people are meeting food inspections. So it's a lot of different things that have happened at the county level. Roads, just like the city of Fort Wayne has, the city of Fort Wayne, the kind of mayors deals with the roads. County commissioners deal with the roads as well for unincorporated areas. So, there's a lot of different things. The library system, they appoint people. It's different. They have a separate board. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of things, but they are like kind of like a mayor, kind of like some of the roles of the city council. The county council is just fiscal. They just deal with the money. And once the money goes through county council, once it's approved by county council, then depending on which department it's going to, if they send it to, something that the commissioners deal with, the commissioners are free to contract that out. Now, oftentimes, like with the sheriff, they'll get an appropriation, they'll get money, but then they can't. I don't think the sheriff has any contracting powers, so they have to ask to for a contract from the commissioners, because commissioners can. That's an important power of the commissioners that a lot of other units don't have, the ability to contract without.
Okay. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
I know
I have so many questions for you that I want to stop you on that one, because I got some good stuff to ask you.
Yeah.
But I've heard some people compare their capacity to a king, because the capacity is so expansive. you know, and a lot of people did not know that. And so, yes. So yeah, I agree with what you say. And so the next question is, what skills do you believe are necessary to qualify as a commissioner, such as admin, budgeting, business, finance, and even social and emotional skills, which the community feels are currently lacking in our current commissioners? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely understanding, financials. I think if you're going into county council, you really need to understand financials because that's pretty much all they do. The commissioners, you have to, understand state law, or have a basic idea of state law, because that's really what defines the commissioner's role. So there's a legal aspect. Obviously, they have, I don't think there's one attorney on that, the county commissioners. So they rely on outside counsel. And I think it's important to know the people that you're getting guidance from. So I think we need a representative, county staff, the people that are in charge in the county, the chief of staff for the county. We need to make sure that that we have a diverse group of individuals that represent the county when we're, trying to get advice that are outside of our area of expertise, outside of the commissioner's area of expertise. Administration, when you're evaluating different policies, when you're evaluating like who to design the jail, because the current thing with the jail is they are responsible for all county, actually they're responsible for all county property. So that includes the jail.
Amen.
Right? And so even they control the structure. The sheriff basically, controls like the people within that and how, and, whether they have permission to go, but anything, attached to any wall, that's the, purview of, the county commissioners. So, kind of familiarity with, the criminal justice system. Just, you don't need to be you don't need to like be like 100, like know everything about it, but I think you do need a certain level of familiarity, and you need to listen to the public. I think that's the biggest thing. We have people that have lots of experience with what they've experienced through the criminal justice system, and if we were listening to them, then the county commissioners would be making adjustments to these contracts. The sheriff would be making adjustments to how he deals with the jail, and so we don't have like kind of medical treatment of inmates is a big concern, and it doesn't seem to have to be this way. It seems like we can make major improvements if we're just listening and we're trying to understand what we can do better as county commissioners.
What are your goals for the county? Like top three?
Top three. Okay. I think transparency is kind of something that goes, throughout. I think we need to go above and beyond what is required by the state as far as, making information accessible to the public. And if we're not prohibited from giving it out, unless there's a good reason, we should give that out. We shouldn't have, a journalist shouldn't have to give a public records request to get information about, a contract. And in fact, I think that the current contract for the medical provider, in fact, and I'm not an attorney, so this is something where I would, want an investigation, would want like an attorney to give an analysis of this, but I don't think that they followed state law properly in posting that online like they should have. So I don't think they're even making that basic level of threshold of transparency the state required. And I think we can go beyond that. And even if it's not required to be posted, if it's in a public meeting, why not post it? Okay. So transparency is big. A second one would be criminal justice reform. I think we need to reduce the number of nonviolent offenders. I think the county commissioners need to appoint people to the Community Corrections Advisory Board that are going to create good programs there. And let's see here, a third one. It's so hard to pick these. I think I think with the let's see here. I'm trying to go through all my points. I mean, I have to pick one of them. I have like 6 of them, and I have to pick one of them. I would say I'm going to say environmentally conscious planning. I think the environment is important. I think we can have carbon neutral at county level. I think we should try to strive to be carbon neutral. So, reducing our unnecessary auto emissions. Hopefully we can maybe have an electric vehicle fleet. I'm going to look for state and federal money as available to try to make ourselves a more green county. So yeah.
See, that is awesome. Now, Alicia is giving me the countdown, so I have
Yeah.
one more question left, okay?
Okay.
So I will say, this is your last question. We will ask every candidate the same question. If you are elected, in which I pray you are, will you be a resource and an ally of the Black community? Will change makers still be able to contact you to support our nonprofit and our community?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping to.
I'm sorry, if you are not elected, which I pray you are, but if you are not, will you still be that ally, and will we still be able to contact you and work with you?
Oh yeah, I look forward to working with change makers for the betterment of this entire county, regardless, and the entire state and the entire country.
We look forward to it. All right. Good luck with your campaign, Jorge.
Thanks so much. Yep.
Right.
Go ahead, stay there for a minute.
Okay.
As a host, I have the prerogative. I want to ask you one question. In view of the conversation now concerning the county wanting to spend $350 million in moving the jail or considering doing something with the jail, what is your position, or what would be your position in dealing with taking a look at where the jail situation is now in view of the problems that they're facing right now?
Yeah, so I think that there's a design issue. So given the ruling, given the design issues, I think that a new jail there's not much of an option at this point. Unfortunately, it's gotten to this point because from what I've looked at from the elevated study, apparently they've been over even the stated capacity, which is about 737 since 2003. So this has been a ticking time bomb, to use a metaphor, and it blew up on their watch. It blew up on it took someone suing and a ruling to finally kind of push kind of a new jail. But I think we can reduce. I think it shouldn't be 1,500 beds. I think we shouldn't be locking up this many people, this many nonviolent offenders in this county. And I think it will bring down the cost. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't bring down the cost if we were looking at a lower amount of beds. And I think 12, given the ruling, I think we're kind of forced into 1,200, but we need to be reducing it and making it clear that this is, we need to be working to kind of reduce this. And we need to do it in the short term anyways, based on the ruling, bring it below 737. And it's going to take working with other stakeholders. We get, it's going to take county prosecutor, county judges. It's going to take the state and the state policies on incarceration. It's going to take,
thank you so much.
Level.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, we're getting ready for the next interview.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. All right. All right. Coming up next, we have Alicia Ross, who is the co-founder of Changemakers Fort Wayne, and she will be interviewing 2 individuals who are running for the Wayne Township Trustee Board of Directors, Patricia Turner and James Grant.
All right. I believe that Patricia Turner and James Grant are having issues with getting onto the Zoom. So what we're going to do, I believe our host and our moderator, we're going to go down to who we have on the Zoom, which are, we have James. James is here. Patricia, do we have you on the Zoom as well? All right, well, we're going to go with who we have. James, stay in the waiting room. I see you there. We're going to go with our state reps who next up, we have 3 candidates. Our host, you want to go ahead and skip down and introduce them, our state reps? All right.
We have 3 candidates that's running for the newly created, county district, House District 82. We have Kathy Zuka, and we have Kyle Miller and Melissa Reinhardt. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. How are you all?
Good, thank you.
Doing well.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hello, it is good to see you all. All right, we're going to get right into it. We're going to ask our very first question that we've asked everyone. It's going to be a little bit different with you all because we have 3 of you. So when I throw the questions out, you all can just, anyone can actually take the question, and actually more than one of you can take the question if you would like, all right?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, so very first question. What is the role of a state representative? Like, what would you do? Like, can you inform the community that's watching?
Well, a state representative is exactly what it says. You represent your constituents down at the State House. Every year, the legislature creates bills, and that includes our budget bills. That includes bills on education, on roads, on infrastructure, on some strange laws as well. And so, so that's basically what the state legislature does. We have the 2 different houses, the state representatives and the state senators.
All right.
I think
Go
that
ahead.
no problem. I'll add to that. Kathy did a fine job. I think that it's at each level of government, endemic in the word representative is that is your point of contact for everything that happens at a state level. And so not only is that the person you're going to contact for any bills or anything that could be put forth or is being put forth down at the State House, but it's also their chance to be your representative and come to you and let you know what's going on and let people know that what you do.
Perfect. That is exactly what we needed. One of the reasons why we're here today is because many times we have politicians come into our neighborhoods and they ask us to help them knock on doors, or they ask us to vote for them. But we, many times in our communities, we work several jobs, or we're in school, or, these are impoverished neighborhoods, and we never know, what do you do? Or what can you do for us? Or voting for you, how could it change my life? Or how can it make my life better? Or what do you do? So we want to kind of demystify the politics for our people, right? So we want to break it down. It might sound like common sense, right? Or you might be able to say it sounds like exactly what it is, but it might not be so common sense for the common person. Right. So that's why we want to kind of break it down. It's not, common sense is not always common.
Well, any elected politician, they can't be all things to all people, but they certainly can listen to as many people as possible. And, I think to counter what you were just saying, or to complement what you were just saying, is, when I'm knocking on doors, and I'm sure Kathy and Kyle do the same thing, I always ask them what's most important to them, because that's how you get people engaged. That's how you get people to vote. That's how you get people to help knock on doors. What is most important to you? Is it education? Is it housing? Is it healthcare? Because we all have our passions, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So.
And I will say that the community has definitely said, when I've been knocking on doors, is if you win, will you come back? Are you just gonna get elected and not come back to us? Because we get a lot of people here every 2 years, or we get a lot of people here every 4 years, and then we never see them again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we definitely, even if you don't win, that's what's really important.
Yes.
When you don't win, still come back, because you still have power in your voice, in your presence. We don't sit in any political seat, but our voice still matters, right? Our presence still matters. So you don't even have to sit in these seats to still matter, okay? So I think that, you know, if you win or if you lose, your voice still matters. And I think that's important. So thank you all for those answers. The next question: for so long, the Black community has been neglected. As an elected official, what will your capacity be? And how will you be able to wield power to help the Black community? And that could be for anyone.
Well, you know, I think there's so many different things, the way the Black community is impacted. When I'm thinking with my platform on housing insecurity and food insecurity, African Americans experience food insecurity twice the rate of white Americans. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable when we have a 5.1 billion surplus down in Indianapolis. It's ridiculous. Everyone should be going to bed with food in their belly at night. Everyone should have a roof over their homes. And of course, minority populations experience the biggest impact of the housing deficit in our states, not just our community, unfortunately. You know, Black infant mortality rates were going down, and then they've gone back up now because of the pandemic, but coinciding with the pandemic, they're starting to go back up again. There's so much that needs to be done to serve African American and all disadvantaged groups, because that's really the crux of my platform in running for this office. Yeah, I could keep going on and on, but in fairness to Kyle and Kathy.
Well, African Americans are 5 times more likely to be arrested. And so what we need to do is go into the community and find out what their thoughts and their ideas are, and then work to better those services and what it is that they need. I mean, Melissa was talking about the Black infant mortality rate. Well, and let's talk about the Black maternal mortality rate.
There you go.
And 80% of those deaths are preventable. So somebody needs to be. We need to worry more about those issues as well. And we all agree on the same thing. $5 billion in the bank is not helping our communities at all.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with both Melissa and Kathy. I think it's something that, you know, the issues that affect the Black community are apparent, and quite honestly, I think that it's not lost on me. I assume it's not lost on Kathy and Melissa that we're 3 white people sort of vying for your votes, and I think the Black community, anytime we ask for your vote, should be leery of any politician that asks for that. But I have faith that if I get through the primaries, if Kathy wins, if Melissa wins, that with time we will build that trust and show that any 3 of us can be that link to the State House for Black communities.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was really passionate about that question. This new district could have stood to have a more diverse candidate, right? Until we start to diversify our politics, we will see more of the same. Diversity in thought matters too. At this time in our country, the Black community needs accomplices, especially after the recent assaults by Republican representatives Lucas and Seymour. More than an ally, we need accomplices, allies that will act, allies that will call out white nationalism at every opportunity and in front of every audience. Are you prepared for that when you represent everyone at the State House?
You know, I always go back to my students, and that's the fact that my school is very diverse. It's Black, brown, white. And I have to go into that school every day and look into the eyes of my students. And I want them to have, I want them to have a better life than I've had. I want them to have all the opportunities that everyone gets. And so for me, that's the whole reason I'm doing this.
Yeah, and I think that it is important. I think that I guess I'll only speak for me. I got into this to bridge those gaps between differences of thought, between different experiences. I mean, again, I'm not naive to the fact that I'm another white male asking for votes. But I think that, you know, it's going to take strong leadership to be able to take the things that impact the Black community, things that impact you know, other communities within the district, bring all of those people to the table and make sure that all of those voices are represented. I think that's the beauty of this new district is it is one of the more diverse districts in the state. There are rich folks, there are poor folks, there are Black folks, there are white folks. It's such a melting pot, and I think that that's something. Quite honestly, I don't want to speak on a national level, but I think as a nation growing up, we always grew up with this. I should say I grew up with this idea that you know, America's a melting pot, and I think that right now we're in a moment where that melting pot seems like it's filled with oil and water, and we've got all these different groups, and that really hurts my heart, because I think that we are so diverse as a nation, as a state, as a district, and I really look forward to bringing all of those voices together to find that path forward.
And you know, and a very different approach is, you know, I've dedicated my entire career to either educating others about disadvantaged populations, and then to what I'm doing currently, advocating for, and in many different ethnic groups. When I was teaching in higher ed, and now working or leading a nonprofit and feeding and providing enrichment programs for people of all backgrounds. You know, that's the beauty of my training as a social scientist. I can't say it enough. I'm so grateful to be a cultural anthropologist. I've studied many cultures around the globe, lived in many different places, visited many different places. I can't pretend to say, even if I've spent like 20 plus years working with the Miami Indians of this area, I could never understand what it's truly like to be a Miami Indian, but I have more insights than someone next door who doesn't even know what a Miami Indian is. You know, and that's something I write about in the Journal Gazette often, is I talk about the shared humanity that we all have, not forgetting those individual histories that have impacted in the reasons why things are the way they are today. But again, I will never stop advocating for and calling things out for what they are.
I appreciate that.
And I'm really glad you mentioned Jim Lucas, Representative Lucas, because I'm glad they've taken him off of his committees, because he just needs to be voted out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate the Kyle speaking about diversity. I mean, diversity creates richness. It really does. And so we're really looking for, you know, more of that to increase. And so you guys are doing a great job. I appreciate that. We're getting into the thick of it. You guys are killing it. All right. So new research from the CDC finds that Black women are over 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy, postpartum than white women, and are 5 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related cardiomyopathy, blood pressure disorders than white women. Knowing this, how do we plan to address Black maternal mortality, an epidemic in America?
We have to increase healthcare access. I mean, and not just expecting every patient, even if it's just for regular checkups or insurance enrollment or disease management. We can't expect everyone to be able to come to, the healthcare, the clinic. We need to be more open to mobilization, and Neighborhood Health Clinic has done some of that, and it's really been very successful. We need to meet people where they're at, and the same can be said for SIDS and diabetes and whatnot. So much of that could be brought to the people instead of expecting them to come to you when they may not even have the means to get there. A diagnosis that, a mobile unit is just one example of many. I'm not advocating having babies and mobile units and things like that, but there's a lot of education, enrollment, and management, disease management, and possibly diagnoses that could be done by meeting people where they're at. It's been hugely successful in our food programs where I work, and I've seen it copied, like I said, at the health clinic, and it's working out well.
Prenatal care is so important, making sure that even before women get pregnant, that they're taking the right vitamins to make sure that your child's not going to have spina bifida. The whole idea of, I used to work in medical billing 30 years ago, and at that time, everything, when medicine was doing their research, they researched everything on men. And that includes uterine cancer and breast cancer. I mean, everything was researched on men. So are we doing enough research on Black women? I don't know, but it's something that I'm thinking about. Could be possible. I think of one of the fittest, most athletic women in the world almost died after she had her baby, Serena Williams. And that just boggled my mind. How did that happen?
Yeah, I think that again, as a representative, there are times where you lead on things and you charge ahead, knowing the full depth of the issue. And for me, I would echo healthcare access. I would absolutely echo education. But this is one of those areas. I'm never going to know what it's like to birth a baby. I'm never going to know what it's like to be a Black woman in that situation. And so this is where not only education for people in that situation is extremely important, but the education for your representatives is extremely important, because I don't have those experiences. And so being able to listen, being able to absorb that information, and again, find the best way forward is really important.
Sometimes physicians will basically like poo-poo some issues that women are having. And I just believe that happens very frequently with Black women. Oh, that headache you have, it's nothing.
Right.
That's another issue we need to have, is make sure that all of our physicians are understanding that not everybody presents the same way. Definitely women present, we know, heart attacks a whole lot differently than men do. And for a long time, women were having heart attacks and going into the emergency room and being discharged and then dying later. And it just, it's happening. And of course, we need more education.
It's women's pain. Black women's pain is viewed as
Yes.
It's derived from racism. Black women's pain is not viewed as extreme as white women's pain. So when we come in, and this is a personal thing for me, I've experienced it and I still experience it. When Black women say we're in pain, it's not viewed as extreme as a white woman's pain. Like they've done history, they test with Black women. We know the stories of them doing hysterectomies and different science experiments on Black women in history. And so these things are embedded in the healthcare system, the racism. Doctors are taught these things. And so there's a lot that has to be done, that must be done, or we will continue to die. It's a crisis in America, and it must be treated like that. And our politicians must treat it like that. It must be a part of the agenda. It must be a part of the agenda. And if it is not, we cannot continue to vote for the politicians that don't make it a part of their agenda. And that is why we're having these conversations. And so it has to be a specific thing. It can't be people of color or minorities. It must be Black women are dying. This is a part of my agenda. And that is why we're going to continue to have these conversations. And I'll go on to the next questions. Thank you all for those answers and for listening to that part. Homegrown white nationalists are one of the greatest domestic threats to safety and security of Black communities in the nation at large. We must take action to mitigate the spread of racism and bigotry and hold perpetrators accountable for race-based attacks. Doing so requires politicians and corporations to face head-on the fact that white nationalism is real and on the rise by calling it out and for what it is at every opportunity and in front of every audience. Last year in Fort Wayne, this domestic terrorism murdered 2 Black boys, nearly killed another, and traumatized a child. Indiana still does not have a hate crime bill. How will you, as our district rep, advocate for our safety?
I want to say, first of all, Jorge and I were down at the State House when the State Senate was debating the hate bill. And Jorge, you were with me, weren't you? Maybe it was Julie. But anyway, I was just absolutely appalled when they decided that, we had Senator Greg Taylor was talking to his constituents about what was going on in his community, and still people voted against it, saying it's just not necessary. They're wrong. It is necessary. We had a hate crime that happened in New Haven. It was the same year that they were debating that hate crime bill, and they still, it was mentioned, but they didn't do anything about it. I would just keep on making sure that it's introduced every year until it passes, and that's what we would have to do.
Yeah, I think that we have a hate crime bill that covers somehow everybody and nobody at the same time, and so I think what's really important, and I think what Kathy's touching on, is we need to push for specific protected classes within that hate crimes bill. It's not enough just to say that judges can consider that when sentencing. It needs to spell out exactly the classes, including race, including sexual orientation, gender, things like that. There need to be specific classes that are protected.
And if elected, yes, absolutely. This would be very important to me. It's embarrassing. I think I've got colleagues all around the country that they just like, you don't have a hate crimes bill. Well, not really, not really. And it's like, it's 2022. And we could do so much better being a welcoming state, being a welcoming community. And like I said before, I will advocate for anybody who's going to be treated differently based on, the whole list of things that others and the majority don't feel are important to protect. So yes, absolutely, I would support that.
Well, and I think it's important too, and Melissa touched on it just now. We have the nation watching. We have businesses that are watching. You know, Eli Lilly is talking about how far behind we're falling on so many different things in Indiana. And so I think that's very important to keep at the top of our minds, is that the eyes of the nation are upon us, and it's very important that we show them what it is we really stand for.
And I will tell you that high school guidance counselors across the country are watching us as well, and thinking about whether they want to have their students go to college in the state of Indiana.
All right, so we're running out of time, but I have 1.5 more questions. So race neutral policy prescriptions cannot and will not remedy the ill effects of 400 years of government sanctioned terror and discrimination that have systematically shut Black communities out of the bounty of America that we have helped to build. Will you write legislation specific to the issues faced by the Black community? Will you write legislation specific to the issues faced by the Black community?
I will definitely write bills that are specific to the Black community, because the Black community is a large part of the district and also of our state. And everybody needs to be represented. And again, when I go down to the State House, I hear what people say when they're testifying, and I just cringe. I just think you're so ignorant. And like I've said it before, the time when I testified against HB 1134, and a woman was testifying for it, and one of the state legislators asked her, "Are you saying that teachers should not be allowed to say Black Lives Matter?" And she said yes. So yes, I will definitely write legislation and fight for it.
Yeah, and I think that if sorry, Melissa,
That's
go ahead.
Okay. No, go ahead.
I think that if what we're after is equity and rather than equality, I think that it's very important that if there are things, and we know there are things that affect specifically the Black community, that we need to be paying attention to those things specifically. And so, yeah, I'm with Kathy. I think it's extremely important that it's not about giving everybody the same thing. It's about giving everybody the tools to have the same shot.
Yeah, and there's so many issues, right? And like Kyle said, the nation's watching, and they are. I'm tired of us becoming, the comedy shticks of late night TV. It's at our expense, and it's, and it's the choices made by a few, unfortunately. I really think championing health disparities, the different disparities that we've all spoken about tonight, it's in particular how they manifest in the African American community, would be at the top of my legislative agenda. Because let's face it, if you're not healthy, you can't get out and go to work. You can't go out and be a productive citizen. You can't go vote. You can't go, you can't go protest if you want to. We need to get healthy. And I could see myself being fully invested in that, and education too. My goodness, the educational disparities. But like I said, there's so many different things, but I really think we need to get people healthy.
And also right now with voting, I've noticed that some of these polling places have closed out on the southeast side, and there's like the Hessen-Kassel Library isn't a satellite voting place anymore either. There's some disparity there.
That is right. And I just have one last question for you all. Why you? Why now over any other candidate?
Yeah, I've been where, I've been the 1 in 3 that are struggling in our community. I was there as recently as 4 years ago, living in subsidized housing. I get those that I help at Wellspring on a daily basis. I get what they're going through, and so many had it far worse than I did as a single mom. People, I think it's time that we have someone advocate for our community that is a real part of the community. I'm a Fort Wayne native. Again, as a social scientist, I think we could stand some more critical thinking down in the state legislature. We didn't see a whole lot of that this last legislative session. My story is a story of the people, and I have 10 years experience in leadership and community advocacy and volunteering. That's why I want to serve.
Well, I haven't waited to be a state legislator to start advocating for education. And I've been advocating for the past 10 years. I've been going down and lobbying for 10 years. I have spoken to so many legislators in person. I've testified against some of these ridiculous bills. And we all three put education at the top of our list. And I've been the one who's been going down to the State House, and I've been really working on that. And I just went down on Saturday for our Indiana State Teachers Association union, so that we were talking about what it is we're going to be working on for next year and who's going to be representing our union. So I've already started. I just see it as the next step up for me.
And I started running for state representative in 2018 against Martin Carbaugh in the previous 81st district. We moved that district 8 points when all was said and done between our races in 2018 and 2020. And that didn't just come from working solely with Democrats or solely with white folks. It came with bridging those gaps. Talking with everybody. In 2020, we made over 20,000 voter contacts, and so if the job of a representative is to go out into the community and find what issues matter to people and fight for those things. That's what we've been doing. This race is sort of the culmination of the work that we've been doing for the better part of 5 years now.
So we appreciate that. Thank you all so much for answering these questions. We know that you all have done so many interviews, but we did not want any of the same interviews. I've watched so many interviews with all of you all, but I wanted to get a different side of you all this evening, and that we did get. Thank you all for hanging in there, and we'll talk to you all soon. Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes, and we will hold you all accountable to everything that you all said tonight, and we look forward to working with you all in the community. Thank you all so much. Good night.
Thank you. Great questions.
Yay, thank you.
Look like we're ready to move on to our next interview, but I just have a question to these representatives. So often in campaigns, it appears that we dance around certain issues. Very seldom do I hear candidates bringing up the poor that is among us. In Indiana, there's 3.1 million poor people in this state. And I very seldom hear candidates talk about what are you going to do about the poor that can't get health care, the low income voters who can't get to the polls because they don't have enough money to get transportation to get where they're going. And we need to put more emphasis on how we're going to handle and deal with the poor that's among us. So my question is, what is your platform for dealing with poor people in this state and in this city? Because in Fort Wayne, we have over 50,000 poor people walking in our communities, or they're the working poor, don't have past $7.25 an hour. I want to know, will you vote for a $15 minimum wage in the state of Indiana?
Yeah, I think that again, our race, this race for me is a culmination of the races in the past that we've seen these issues come to light. And so the things that we're pushing, which arguably aren't the only issues we're facing in Indiana, are a strong public school system, higher wages, and making sure everybody has access to quality, affordable healthcare. And within those things, you touched on it. 725 is poverty wages. We do need that at $15 an hour, at least. But it's not only that, because making a decent wage is great. But if you can't afford childcare costs, it doesn't mean much. If you can't take time off work when you're sick, when a family member's sick, it doesn't mean much. So what we've pushed for is not necessarily just a wage increase, which is important. It's taking some of those other burdens off of you: a paid family and medical leave program, a child care tax credit, things like that. As far as healthcare goes, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. It's not enough just to say people need good healthcare. It's putting those things into action and taking those burdens off of people.
Oh, I've also run before. I ran in 2016 and 2018, and in 2016, that was one of my top three items that I wanted to do, was to make sure people had a livable wage. I think I've heard someplace that for a middle, be able to afford a middle income apartment, somebody would have to work 80 hours a week at a minimum wage job in order to afford that. And that's just ridiculous. And so anyway, that has been a big issue for me as well. Yes. And like I say, so many of my parents work more than one job, and it's so difficult for them because they're not near their children either. So yeah, we have a lot of issues in this state. When you talk to legislators, they don't see it. They really don't, because we've got this surplus, and to them, that's the really cool thing. We've got this surplus. But when you talk to them about education, and education in terms of for children of the lower socioeconomic status, well, you know what? Those kids, those schools have not been given adequate funding. My school district hasn't been given adequate funding. A less than 1% increase every year for 9 years, except for last year, is not adequate funding.
Well, and I'll just add really quickly, I know we're behind. I definitely in support of a $15 minimum wage rate. My entire platform is exactly what you were talking about, advocating for the 1 in 3, and it's actually 1 in 2 when you consider the entire state. 3.5 million people are struggling right now. But I'll tell you, I just read an infographic because I look at this stuff all the time. $15 isn't enough either. It's just not enough.
It really takes about 24.
Yeah, it's over 20, definitely. Yeah.
To make it, but we gotta have a minimum wage,
right?
So that people can develop some hope, for tomorrow, that 15 can lead to 18 or 19 or 20.
Right.
But I really thank you for your response. And we're going to move on. I see we have our next category, which they are running for an office that deals with the poor. And so I'd like to introduce for the next interview, Patricia Turner and James Grant, 2 candidates that are running for the Wayne Township board position. And before we begin, I'd like to say this. I've been in Fort Wayne for about almost 47 years. And the Wayne Township trustee is a legacy in this community, because when I got here, it was under Black leadership, and it's still under Black leadership. And they have been doing a magnanimous job in taking care of the poor within our community. And most of that is coming from good people that are on the board that work alongside of the trustee. So, those positions are very important. And I know Patricia Turner very well. She has been a servant leader on that Wayne Township board for a long time. And our trustee has grown tremendously in serving those that are poor among us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Pressey. We appreciate that introduction. Hello, Patricia. Hello, Jay.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
All right. All
Great.
right. Well, we're going to get right into this. The first question is the same question that we ask everyone. For so long, the Black community has been neglected. And as an elected official, what will your capacity be? And how will you be able to wield your power to help the Black community?
You want me to go first, James? Go ahead.
Yes. So, okay. So, as a direct individual with inside of the Black community, I come from Chicago, Illinois. Yeah. So I've been witnessing the struggling community for all of my life, basically, you know, and I feel like since I'm so young as well, I have a direct connection with the youth, because the youth, believe it or not, we are the future of this country. So it starts with the great, powerful young leader, you know, not to, you know, because I do commend and appraise the trustees office and the board's members who are already on there, because they have been doing, you know, somewhat of what they're supposed to do out here, you know. So what I can say is, within the community and literally being within the community, there's a lot of unpointed like problems, you know, like within the community and stuff. And I believe that we can budget the town's money and all of the new laws or whatnot to help build a stronger like suit of Fort Wayne, you know, like, excuse me for
Yeah. Okay.
And I feel like with me being a direct member of the youth, and I do have an old soul, as they may call it as well.
Me
You know,
too.
so,
Me too.
yeah, you know, so I can connect with both ages, you know, like the kids, the adults, the teens, the elders. You know, I feel like I'm a very heartwarming and intellectual person. So yeah, I feel like I can do a lot within this position. Just to start here, like, because this is just the baby step, you know, for me and my life goals.
Okay.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
So, you know, I believe that there are things for us to do even when we're not an elected official. And so, although we serve a predominantly broad base of Black folks in Wayne Township, because we're the largest township, and yet we're the poorest township as well. And so the way that I wield power on the board is making sure that we have that we think outside the box sometimes, and look at other needs that we can by law take care of. And so I think that's one of the things that we've done really well. And on a personal note, you know, I'm not just a board member at Wayne Township. I am very involved in the community at large. So that's the other way that I make some change and support Black people.
Yes,
Awesome.
I have seen you do it quite a bit around the city. So yes.
I'm busy.
Thank you so much. Well, that kind of goes into my next question would be, you know, tell us about your past experience as a board member, what you're most proud of, things that you've been involved with in the community.
Go ahead, James.
Oh no, I'm not
This
I'm
will be,
not.
I'm gonna go to Patricia for this one.
Okay, all right. So I have lived in Wayne Township for the past 27 years. And prior to living in Wayne Township, well, probably I've lived in Wayne Township most of my life. I lived in Adams for a little while and St. Joe for a little while, but predominantly my living arrangements have been in Wayne Township. And I'm pleased with that. When I decided to buy a home, I made the decision to buy a home in Wayne Township. I didn't want to move out from my people. I'm going to say my people, my Black people. So I love the community. I sit on the board of Miss Virginia's, which is a food pantry as well. And I'm also my neighborhood association president. I live in the Larez neighborhood. And so I am really, really involved with my neighborhood as well. I'm also a part of the auxiliary of the only Black American Legion post in the 4th District. So I'm involved there as well. So yeah, so I'm very much involved with the community and will continue to be. I mean, even when I make the decision to no longer be a board member at Wayne Township, I will still be involved in the community in some way. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Patricia. You got a long list there of things that you do in the community. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My next question is going to go to James. So have you had any experience being on a board before?
Well, with me being so young, all of my board experiences come with being in school. So I've been on like the leadership board at school, like the dorm secretary, like et cetera, you know. But within the community, I won't say I do a lot because I can do more, but I do what I can, you know, for the time being with my schedule and stuff, because I run a couple of different businesses out here. I run a different couple of businesses out here in Fort Wayne, and one of my businesses, which made me convert to open a nonprofit, which is called A Helping Hand, Quality Visuals, A Helping Hand. But Quality Visual Staffing, my temp agency, it just happened so randomly. I did a toy drive and stuff, but I made it annual. You know, so now I do annual toy drives, like I do like back to school drives, you know, like, and then I do community events too whenever I can. Invite as many people as I can, you know.
I just have to go on.
So that's pretty much what I do, you know. I'm just a entrepreneur with a bigger vision, you know.
Okay. Well, I have another question for you before we go on to, you know, go and try to go back and forth between you two and get as much information as possible. But James, tell me about a time that you had to lead a group of people. Do you have an experience with that?
Yes, so many. Let me think of a good one. I mean, well, I can think of my most recent event, my campaign event that I had. No, actually, I can think of, let's see. Okay, so I don't know how everyone will react to this, but I think it was in like 2020. It was the protest march going on downtown.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I was one of those leaders in there, you know. My face was on the news and everything, you know. I was there, my younger friend, Kiora, I don't know if you remember her or not, but she was in there too. But now that took a lot of courage, a lot of like brains, like a lot of everything, because you have to be brave to get up in front of some people.
High five.
Yeah, and
high five. Amen.
And for you to, you know, like for you to be fighting for something that you believe in so strong, because believe it or not, I care more about my people than, you know, myself. I love me some me. I love me some me now, but I care about my people more, you know, like, and my kids are going to be Black. I'm Black, you know, so I don't want to keep keep this trend going on, you know, like it has to end somewhere, you know, with all the senselessness. That's basically all it is senselessly.
Man, I completely agree. I was
Speaking
down
our
there.
language.
Yeah, you're speaking our language. I was down there at the protests, and that was an intense time. I mean, that takes a lot of guts.
The beginning of change.
Yeah, that was the
And
beginning of who
the reason why, like how I ended up running in office, is so crazy. Like I was saying, the younger, like the youth, social media, everything. I got nominated through a social media site to which is Snapchat, to run for office, to run for a local office.
Okay.
Yeah, they see me as like I only thing I post on my Snapchat is basically like when I'm doing something good, you know, like I'm doing something good. I try to help people out every day, you know, if I can. You know, I'm like the lean on. If anybody needs me, they can lean on me, you know. So that's why my campaign name is Voices Heard by Grant, because I really do hear. Not only do I hear, I feel it because I'm going through it as well. Like, so.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why this position, it doesn't really offer you that big of a salary. And that's why, you know, that's another good reason why I would like to run for this position as well. Just so that people know that I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for y'all, like for you all. I'm in it for everybody else. Like it's nothing to do with the money, you know. It's something to do with the well-being of our community.
Thank you so much for that, James. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Patricia, do you think, I have a question for you. Do you think it's important to diversify boards and commissions? And how would you define diversity? Is the board currently diverse?
The board is not as diverse as it could be. And I believe in diversity. I just called someone out a couple of weeks ago about a board that was just created and there weren't any people of color on the board. And so I actually contacted an individual I know and said, what's going on? Why isn't there some more diversity on this board? So I'm not afraid to do that. And I've done that on a number of occasions. The board is currently myself, African-American woman, and then 2 white men. One's an attorney, and then one is a social worker. And so, although they're not diverse, the social worker in particular, he has worked with very diverse populations. He was the social worker over at St. Mary's Church for years. And so I trust him and his thinking, and he thinks well about all people, especially poor people in general. And so I think all boards should be diverse, and we don't have enough diversity on most of the boards and commissions that are where people are appointed. And so, yeah, I believe that boards need to be diverse, and not just gender and race, sexual orientation, disability. It needs to be all encompassing. Boards do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I'm just going to ask you both one more question. Well, okay, 2 more questions. One more short question and then another question. Look, I'm trying to get all my questions in and I want to hear the answers too, okay? James, what do you hope to achieve in this position? What are you looking to do?
So basically what I'm looking to do, I'm looking to help establish like a budget like that's in it for the people, you know, rather than what's in it for the town's money, you know, like, because really the town's money is the people's money, you know. So I'm looking to establish more reasonable, like, I don't know if I would call them laws, but more reasonable laws, you know, to help out the poor community, because there's just too much that is getting neglected within our community. And I know Patricia and Bruce and Anthony, right?
Yes.
Or yeah, I know they're trying their best right now to do what they have to do in their position of power, you know, but I feel like they can use me, you know, because I'm very, very, very diverse. I'm very flexible. Like I support everything, like, you know, that's reasonable, you know, like, so yeah, I'm really open-hearted, but at the same time, being open-hearted can cause you, you know, to flunk in business-wise. So that's why you also have to have a strong backbone as well, you know. So I'm very, very compassionate, but I'm about my business as well, you know. So as long as everything gets taken care of, you know, like, and all of our people are good, you know, that's basically what I'm trying to accomplish, you know, to make sure we're all good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One more question for you, Patricia. Let's see. Ooh, it's a hard choice. Okay, I'm gonna ask this to both.
Okay.
We will ask every candidate the same question at the end. So if you are not elected, if there's a chance that you're not elected, will you be a resource and an ally to your people? Will you speak up for your people?
Absolutely.
I am always an asset to my community.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. So absolutely. I that's what I do on a daily basis. So, you know, even if I wasn't in office, I'd still be very much an advocate for all communities, not just the Black community, but I'm Black. So, but I think that if you live in a city, that you need to be doing something. You know, you work fine, but you need to be about making some kind of change for the better. And so I will continue to do that, whether I'm in office or not.
Okay.
Yes, I agree as well. I will, because I'm not in office right now, and I'm still doing what I can do for the community, you know. So I just feel like being in office, I'll be, you know, a little bit more known around the city, you know, so everybody will be able to know, oh, we can go to James. He'll help us out, you know, he'll get it done. You know, we can go to James. But yeah, basically, I just kind of went blank there for a second. But
can I add something, Ms. Patricia? What about for the young people? James is trying to do what you've been doing for so many years. And we need mentorship from people like you. So he can learn a lot from exactly what you've been doing. And so that's exactly what we need. We need the passing of the torch, or just if he could get a little bit of the fire that you've been, you know, burning for so many years. And so
I welcome that, actually, because at some point I'm going to be retiring. And so I would welcome mentoring young people who want to get into public office. And I'm very open to that. Absolutely.
This is what I was going to say. I remember. Okay, so I was going to say, just because, like you said, mentoring young people and stuff, that my brand to my helping hand is basically like literally a helping hand. You know, like, so I emailed the mayor, you know, of Fort Wayne several times, you know, because I'm trying to get some type of grant. I don't know, like, you know, like, what is it called? The mission, right? That's the homeless center and stuff. You know, that's a good center.
Rescue mission. The rescue mission.
Yes, the rescue mission. Yes. You know, but it's certain things and stuff like, you know, that should be more lenient, because some people, I mean, I don't really know exactly how it works, but I heard like that you can't get back in after 10 or something, which is reasonable, you know, but some people have late night jobs and stuff, but I mean, maybe they might have a pass and whatnot, but you know, like the food, I don't really know what they're eating there, you know, like I want to at least like open a center. I tried to get a grant, you know, I'm trying to get a grant, but I'm trying to build another center in Fort Wayne, like another homeless center, you know, but and basically like on the south side of Fort Wayne, you know, that's where I live on the south side of Fort Wayne. So I'm trying to open up something, you know, a home. I'm trying to open up a place that these people can call home, because I didn't went through it. I just had a house fire the day after my toy drive, the first one I did. And it was like on Christmas Eve too. So I lost a lot, you know, so I was homeless at that point, you know, so I know how it feels, you know, like to not, but I wasn't homeless, you know, I have family and stuff, but
Yeah.
but you know how it is though to feel, if anybody ever has been in that position and stuff, to feel hopeless, to feel helpless, you know, like I want to give help and hope to these people out here, you know, like it's a lot of people older and younger than me that look up to me, you know, and I wanna mentor people as well, you know, and I could use some mentoring as well, you know, so
I think we can all use a little mentoring, okay?
yes.
Yep.
We can all use a mentor we can go to when we need.
Amen.
All right. Well, Dr. Pressy, you want to go on to the next? Oh, you are muted.
I'm muted.
You're muted, Dr. Pressy.
Sorry about that. Is Miss Nellum's in the pocket?
Is Miss Paulette Nellums
She's
on?
the last one.
She's the next one.
I said, is she the last one besides?
Mm-mm. We go on.
Next?
Okay, let's go over to Portia. Let's go
Okay.
to Portia.
Okay, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce the next candidate that's running for the Wayne Township trustee. And as I mentioned before, the Wayne Township trustee have a tremendous history, you know, in Fort Wayne. And so we're just going to introduce Miss Portia Williams, who's running for that office.
Portia, you in here?
Yeah, she's here.
Hello.
I am. My apologies. I was trying to get off the phone from the Facebook to join on the Zoom meeting. So I am here. Can you all hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Wonderful.
Thank you for joining us, Portia.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello.
So I'm just going to jump right in.
Okay.
This first question, the same question we've asked everyone. For so long, the Black community has been neglected. As an elected official, what will your capacity be? And how will you be able to wield your power to help the Black community?
The township is basically the inner city, which is majority the Black community, the brown community. My goal is to help everyone. So let me start with that. I want to make sure that funds are honestly divided evenly. I want to give everyone the same capacity of thought when I'm thinking outside the box on how can we help this individual, how can we help that individual. I want to do the same thing for a lot of individuals when it comes to that. But the thing that I want to do different is I want to look at the longevity of a person. I want to see, I know that we're helping them for the right now. Township doesn't come with a book. Can I start with what Township is? Do most people know what Township is?
Absolutely, that is perfect, because you know, a lot of people are tuning in just to learn what exactly everyone does in their position. So absolutely, if you could explain that.
Not a problem. So the Township is responsible for ensuring that services are delivered effectively and economically, for the taxpayer and for those who are economically disadvantaged. So when a person's laid off, I'll just say from wherever you may work, you come to Township, you can't quit your job, but if you're laid off, you can come to Township. We want to try to make sure that you still have food on your table. We want to make sure that your rent's still paid, mortgage is still paid. We want to make sure that you don't miss any medicine. If your insurance goes to the wayside, until all of those services get put in place for you through food stamps or Medicaid or things like that, until unemployment kicks in, things that'll be able to help you. So with that being said, the question was, how do I plan to do things different? I want to look at the longevity of a person. Once we've gotten that in place, now you're at a point where you're not worried about your next meal tomorrow. How can we help you going forward? Is your food stamps, or have you gotten them applied for? Have you, are you trying to find a place that's more affordable? Sometimes people do have to downsize in a house. Are you looking for a job? How can we help you get to a point where your resumes are updated? How can we team up with the unemployment agency? How can we team up with the different agencies that are out here to try to make sure things are progressing for you as opposed to keeping you in the same position where you are?
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So it's like a one-stop shop resource for anything you need in the community, right?
Yes.
So
Somewhat. Don't hold me to that. So when you say anything, we need to be more specific on anything. Just your immediate needs. Your immediate needs. We're not going to keep your cell phone on. Things of that nature. We're not going to keep your car payment made, but your immediate needs, your lights, gas, water, things of that nature. Yes, we want to make sure your necessities are taken care of. That's one less worry for you. That's one less worry for your children.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. What is your history with the city? Have you previously volunteered? Did you run for any other positions?
This is actually the first position that I've actually run for. I actually started working for Township in 2007. I interviewed with the previous trustee, and I was kind of cocky and bold back then. He asked me, that I was really excited to learn that there was an agency that helped people. People could come in and it wasn't just you go sit in this little booth or they call you to this back room, as some agencies previously did. And most of them are doing better now, but I was excited to learn that there was an agency that called you in, you told them a little bit about yourself, and they were actually trying to help you, trying to figure out ways, how can we try to make sure this person is waking up in the morning in their home and not on the street. So he asked me what would be my overall goal. And like I said, in 2007, I was 27 years old. My answer was, I want to learn everything that you know so that I can one day become the trustee.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. So with that being said, I started off as the executive secretary. I went from the executive secretary to, I always have to think about it. I need a little notepad on what I did within the township office. I went from that to the event coordinator. From the event coordinator, I went to director of intake, and then I took on director of intake and investigation. So I've done 15 years of training individuals and studying the Indiana codes, because it's not just the township funds come from property taxes. And that's why I say I want to be fiscally, we'll be fiscally responsible for making sure that individuals' money is taken care of and making sure that it's granted respectfully to those who are paying taxes and to those who are economically disadvantaged. And that's where I'm at.
Wow.
And right now, I'm sorry, I stopped working for Township in 2020 for Wayne Township. I currently, when Trustee Washington went to rebuild her office, she asked me to assist, and I went to help and assist with the team building that office. And we are doing absolutely wonderful there too.
That's amazing. That is amazing. You have done everything. That's kind of like how I am. I love to learn new positions and learn everything about everything. It doesn't matter what it is. What motivates you?
What motivates me, honestly, is there's always going to be somebody who gets by, who gets through the system, but knowing that there's that one person that you see and you know that you touch their lives, you see the kids' faces, you see they come back to you and they say, thank you. And it's not even for the thank you, but you can just see the appreciation in them. You can see how it helped them get back on their feet.
Okay. So what is your vision for the future of Wayne Township? What do you want to achieve?
Yes. I honestly, like I said, I want to work on the longevity of a client. I want to have FAFSA classes come in, or individuals come teach parents how to do FAFSA. It's not an easy process anymore. When I was in school, it was a paper and pen. You used to fill in the little bubbles and you were pretty much done. Now you're online doing different things. I want to work on, I want to meet a person where they are so that they can be self-sustaining. Not everyone is at a point where they can go to college. So do we need to have trade schools come in so that we can start to help people getting into, I mean, we've gone through COVID. People are going a totally different direction with their life right now. So I want to do that. I want to do that so that parents know that that their kids can also do the same thing. So generational poverty is going to be big for me, so that parents can learn how to help their children and they can do it at the same time.
Yes, amen to that. Amen to that. I love all that. So I'm going to ask you one last question, and this is the same question we've asked everybody. But would we still be able to contact you to support our nonprofit and community, or will you be a resource to your community when they need support for, you know, things that might look like a political issue, but it's not, it's just human rights, those type of things? Would you support us in that?
I definitely would. I have, I want to be seen in the community, not just during elections. And that's big for me. I've been doing this for, like I said, 15 years, and a lot of things that I do, people won't see me. I do see people in the grocery store. Hi, Portia, how you doing? And I say, hello, how are you? And people have come to my house and we talk about different things. And I definitely want to be that person that people that they feel like they can come to me at any time.
Okay.
Win or lose.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And I've seen you around, you know, and you know, we're kind of in the same boat. You know, people see us around and whatnot, but we're kind of behind the scenes when we're,
yes,
you know, working on our campaigns and whatnot. So
yeah.
I appreciate you coming in and talking with me and letting me know about all your aspirations for the, you know, Wayne Township trustee position. And thanks for coming in, Portia.
I thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. See you in the community.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Before you leave, as the host,
Yes.
I have a prerogative.
Okay.
One of our last interviews, Miss Patricia Turner, who has been on the board of the trustee in a year, she mentioned that Wayne Township is the largest township, but yet it's the poorest township. My question to you, with your expertise of working in the township and then helping someone else to develop their leadership in another township, what is it specifically that you have in mind that will help to bring more dollars into the township from the various sources that are available to assist the poor?
Well, townships are a little different because townships are paid off property taxes. So those funds are already allocated. Like I said, townships don't come with the book. They have a general listing of what they're going to assist with: lights, water, gas, rent, things of that nature. Those are the township, the base of township. So when it comes to township, you have to be creative. You have to say, that's why I say, okay, let's work on generational poverty. Let's work on helping individuals sign up for the FAFSA. Let's work on bringing individuals in for GED classes, and they may not come to our office. They may go to different offices. Let's work on substance abuse classes. There's many things that you can do that are free that township funds won't go to, because township funds are specifically for the assistance portion, since it's property taxes. And
So
there's Indiana
words,
code that you have to go through and standards that you have to create.
So in other words, the township can be creative in terms of if there's money available for the poor, you will have to do referrals rather than try to come up with ways to raise the money.
Yes, you would have to do referrals, but that's when it comes down to who you know, who you can contact. I know that right now there's some agencies that were doing food boxes, especially during COVID, especially Melissa Reinhardt. She works with Wellspring. She does clothing, she does food. Melissa, can you come on Mondays? We have a load of people who are here ready for clothing. You can bring your clothing bank. You can set up right there in the parking lot. Township has done this before, so you just have to be really creative with it.
Okay, thank you so very much.
You're welcome, not a problem, thank you.
It look like we're ready for our next interview. Let's see here. This will be our final interview, I believe. We have Gary Snyder. Am I correct? Is he here?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, we have Gary Snyder, who's running against someone that needs to be replaced
Yes.
for Congress. And I make no bones about it. I represent the poor in the state of Indiana. And this gentleman that's in that position right now is holding up many of the programs in the Congress that can help the poor and help move this nation to where it needs to grow. So I present to many of you that don't know him, this is Gary Snyder, and he's running to replace Jim Banks. Let's send him back home.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Pressey. Thank you so much, Gary, for being here. How are you?
I am well, but I'm like, wow, I got to go last, and the bar's been set really high here.
Damn.
It has been. It has been.
All right. So we'll start off with the first question that we've asked everyone, which would be, for so long, the Black community has been neglected. As an elected official, what will your capacity be? And how will be able to wield power to help the Black community?
Well, I think we need to start with, voting rights. Voting rights are under attack, across the country. And it's just not an attack on who gets to vote. It's also on who's counting the votes. So I see that in the filibuster.
Yes. Come on, sign.
So I think it starts with voting rights. We need to pass the John Lewis Voting Right Act. It's been unanimously passed all the way up until not too long ago. So let's make sure that's passed in the Freedom to Vote Act. I think that's the key to helping the Black community. And don't get me wrong, it helps everyone. There are people out in the rural areas of the 3rd district that would benefit by vote by mail. So it's just not necessarily, the Black community. It's everyone. But I think that is key. When they try to restrict your vote and who counts your vote, we need to take care of that first and foremost, or nothing else matters.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
All right. What is the demographic of the district you serve?
I think that's a tough one. Do I have time to Google? It's mostly white. There's a growing Burmese population, and then the Black community plays a huge role. Especially in the Fort Wayne area, a little less when you get outside of Allen County. It's a very diverse, district, especially within Allen County. A little less when you get outside of Allen County, and I think that causes a little bit of trouble sometimes with some of the rural areas, and it's unfortunate.
Thank you.
Thank you. We want to backtrack just a little bit. Can you tell the people first, what is your job? What do you do?
What
would you be doing? What would you be doing?
Oh, what would I be doing? Well, I am running for the U.S. House of Representatives, so I would represent the 3rd district, which consists all or in part of 13 counties in Indiana, and we would be your representative in Congress, helping pass laws and being a voice for everyone in the district in Washington.
So do you write these laws?
The laws are written by congressmen. I would hope to write laws. You have staff that help you, but yeah, we would definitely put forth legislation that once we beat Jim Banks in November.
It's really important. So that question is really important to us because that was something that a lot of people complimented us on last year when we first started the candidate conversations, because, you know, we have a lot of people that come into our communities and ask us to vote early, or they ask us to vote for them, but they never tell us what their job is. Like, how could you help us? You know, how could our lives change by you voting for us? So the main question is, so you write this legislation, but how could your legislation actually help us? So Jim Banks does a great job at writing legislation that helps his base. That's one thing that I could say he does very well. So a question that I have is, how could our potential legislator do a great job at writing legislation that would help our community?
Well, let's take a look right now. We have a very high inflation that's going on globally. Inflation didn't start under Joe Biden. Everything started creeping up when supply could not keep up with demand coming out of the pandemic. So what we could do right now to help people, you, me, families all across the district, is let's go in and let's expand the expanded child tax credit. I mean, if you had an average family of four had $500 to $600 in their pocket right now, that would help with inflation. If people, another big one is capping the cost of prescription drugs, and more specifically insulin, at $35 per month. That gives people more money in their pocket going forward. And you can keep going down the line with different programs that would help inflation, help working families. And that's just two examples. But, you know, when we are in an inflationary environment, you know, putting money, making sure people have money to help fight these rising costs of gasoline, groceries, and basically anything you're buying right now would go a long way in helping the community now.
Sorry about that, we were muted. Okay, so my next question is, we know that climate change disproportionately affects the Black community. Climate change has brought more hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, and air pollution. How can you help with climate change?
Well, I think,
will you help climate change?
Well, obviously, climate change is an existential, like try saying that, existential threat to you know, the United States and the world. So we start by trying to ease off fossil fuels. Electric vehicles right now are coming out. There are tax credits for those, and charging stations going up everywhere from the infrastructure and jobs bill. But you know, for people who want to get off of fossil fuels and ease their footprint, if you will, you know, there are programs out there right now that were in Congress that Jim Banks voted against, that would allow tax credits and refundable credits for people who want to put go to solar power. And also, you know, we can also help businesses go green too by offering those same tax credits to help ease the transition into green energy.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for that. There's a question that I asked earlier that I would love to discuss with you. Race neutral policy prescriptions cannot and will not remedy the ill effects of 400 years of government sanctioned terror and discrimination that have systematically shoved Black communities out of the bounty of the America that we helped to build. Will you write legislation specific to the issues faced by the Black community?
Well, obviously, you know, when you look at the Black community, and I tell this to my children, I have 7 children, I have 6 grandchildren. You know, I was born in 1968. So basically within my lifetime or pretty close to it, you know, there were, you know, systemic racism that even still exists today. throughout the United States. You see that all the time, with some of the police actions. So you would need to get legislation in there because, just within my lifetime and my mom's lifetime, with 2 generations, Black people weren't even allowed to drink out of the same water fountain. And when you take a look at those inequities in the past that weren't necessarily prevalent for white people, you can see why there is that higher poverty level, because there just haven't been the generational opportunities afforded to most white people. So absolutely, it would be something that I would look at.
Okay, thanks so much for that. I know that people aren't afraid to, pass, immediately pass things for, Asian hate or, what was the other one? Oh, the LGBTQ, things like that. But people are really slow and afraid to pass things that are specific to the Black community. And so I always challenge people to say the word Black. And it's not hard. It shouldn't be hard, but they are really afraid to do it. And so I always ask my legislators, I said, I'm going to challenge you to pass laws that are specific to Black women. Black women and Black babies are dying at a high rate. And so I'm going to always challenge my legislators to be very intentional about not saying minority, about not saying, this is for everyone. It's going to help everyone, people of color, because Black people are always going to be at the bottom of that line. And so we know that when Black people are helped, everyone is going to benefit from that. And so I'm thankful that you considered saying that I will write legislation that is specific to these issues. And so thank you so much for that.
Well, I'll say, a rising tide lifts all ships. And, we have to be there to protect everyone. That's what civil rights legislation is for. That's what hate crime legislation is for. And contrary to what my opponent in the fall says, there are hate crimes and we need legislation, strong legislation. We have it at the national level. We don't have it in the state. That's unfortunate. And hopefully when you get Melissa or Kathy or Kyle, into the state house, they can help get that passed on a state level too.
Thank you. Thank you. So my next question kind of has something to do with what she said. But according to the National Center for Education Statistics, Black women are the most educated and have the highest student loan debt in the country. If elected, how could you address this issue?
Well, I'm in the camp that we need to cancel student loan debt. It's a burden, and if you want to release economic activity, let's let people stop paying their student loans. Let them have that $200, $300, $400 extra a month that they've been given to the government, that they were forced to take just to go to school. So I am for, getting rid of the student debt. And I'll even go a step further because, there are people that have paid off their student loans, have worked the 2 jobs to get those. So let's look at a tax credit of $50,000 spread out over 10 years for the people that have actually paid those back too.
Wow. Okay. I like that. I love that. I have loan debt. I love that.
I have it too.
All right. So can you
let me just say, you should not have to take a student loan out to go to college. Rich people don't have to do it. Poor people shouldn't have to do it.
Exactly. Right. Thank you.
So can you tell us some of your favorite Jim Bakes legislation?
No.
Not one?
Not one. Well, I will say this. I'm a veteran. I served in the United States Army and the Army National Guard as a light infantryman. He passed one piece of legislation that made it easier for, and I'm paraphrasing, for veterans to get headstones when they pass away. The problem is he's not doing anything to stop them from getting those headstones a lot earlier than they should be. So other than that, no, there is no one piece of legislation that Jim Banks has passed or voted for that I would be in favor of, period.
Yeah,
And I'm glad you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned about veterans. I'm a veteran myself, and I tried to get the headstone, but the only way you're gonna get those headstones, you have to be buried in one of the national cemeteries. But if you're a veteran and you're not being buried in just a regular cemetery, you have to pay for your own headstones and your markers. So you're absolutely correct. And Alicia asked about environmental. I am an environmental consultant, and I gave a workshop over the weekend dealing with environmental concerns in Indiana, as well as the Midwest. And one of the things that I did, I walked into the room and I held this up. This is 954 pages of a state legislation dealing with environmental issues in the state of Illinois. And my question is, if the state of Illinois can pass an environmental legislation that will provide $80 million a year for equitable clean air in Illinois, why can't the state of Indiana do the same thing?
We have and the chairman of the environmental committee at the state won't even hold a hearing on the issues of environmental concerns in the state of Indiana. Well, I'll give you a two-word answer: super majority. That's why nothing will ever get done when it comes to environmental action plans in Indiana. We have some of the dirtiest water. We have some of the dirtiest air. We live on some of the dirtiest soil. And that's by no mistake. Nothing in politics happens by coincidence.
Right.
And as long as you have a super majority at the state house and don't have people like Kyle or Kathy or Melissa in there, and people like Phil Giaquina and some of the great Democrat lawmakers across the state, then we're going to continue to drink dirty water. We're going to continue to breathe some of the dirtiest air, and we're going to continue to live in some of the dirtiest soil.
Right. And you're absolutely correct. And this is why the coalition is coming. We're coming to the state house. We're going to be coming, if you're elected to Washington, we'll be coming to your house, because we're going to start crying loud and spare not, because we need clean air. We need to provide new jobs for all of the new technology that's coming that can bring renewable energy and fresh, clean air to our community. So we're coming.
Thank you, Dr. Cressy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cressy.
Yes.
So I have a question. We have two more questions for you. That's it. I promise, but I have to get this question in, okay? Here in Indiana, in 2021, House Bill 1015, authored by Carolyn Jackson, asked for a police misconduct database. It would have been able to track offenses and instances where police officers were suspended without pay and would be available to the public. Would you support passing a bill like this? Yes or no, and why?
Absolutely. When we all want to be safe in our communities. We all want to see the police when we need them. We all want, but we want to make sure that the police that are protecting us are trained right and have the tools, both physically, mentally, and to keep us safe. And when one bad cop can keep going from department to department and still keep committing, crimes, and they are crimes against the public, and they're not in any database, so they can't check, or they're just not doing their job and trying to check when they hire a police officer. So yeah, I would be absolutely in support of this, because while we want safe communities, we also want good police keeping safe communities.
You got my vote, done. You got my vote.
All right, one more question. We have asked every candidate this question. If you are not elected, which we hope you are, will you be a resource and an ally of the Black community? Will change makers, now we will do this, so we're holding you accountable. Will change makers still be able to contact you to support our nonprofit and community work?
Absolutely. My job outside of running for Congress right now is I run an online radio station, a progressive radio station where we have nationally syndicated talk show hosts like Stephanie Miller or Tom Hartman and Hoosier personalities. We put out a daily newsletter that goes out to 50,000 Hoosiers across the state, where a majority, our main sponsor and the main, my unofficial campaign advisor, Robin Winston, who is a stalwart in the Black community, at least politically, helps run all this, runs my campaign, and he's just a big sponsor. We have a lot of Black candidates that come on, and we led on to the newsletter so they can get their message of inclusivity out to everyone. We have a newsletter that goes out to about 20,000 in Michigan right now with the same thing. So yes, we put out a newsletter each day. We have a radio station that addresses not only the Black community, but the community in general.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. We look forward to that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you all. We appreciate you all being here, but stay on because we have a Q&A. We have some questions for you all. We have a friend getting on who actually has some questions. Roger, are you there? Is he there?
Mm-mm. Let me see here. Make sure. Mm-mm.
If he is not there, we're actually
just
going
gonna
to
go to
take the
his
questions from the chat.
It's just- that's
He's
it.
just
And
gonna
this is
miss
for
out
Gary
on his
Snyder.
questions. All right. You can go ahead.
So there's just one question in the chat that we're going to ask, and then just to be respectful of your time,
Yes.
it's 8:03. So but we have to ask this question in the chat. This is a really good one. This is actually for Gary Snyder. It's from Imogene Bibbs, and she says, "Seems as though you had a short stint as a single parent. How will you help incorporate services for single parents once you're elected in Congress, since single parents are in that lower socioeconomic demographic?"
Good question.
At the age of 25, I became a single parent of my 3-month-old, 2-year-old, and 5-year-old daughter. So I understand the I'm going to say trauma, but the needs of single parents. For 2 years, I was the single father of 3 babies. I worked at a factory over in Lafayette, and I worked a second shift. So trying to find childcare for my 3 children at the time was almost impossible. I would get off late, and my daughter would have to go to kindergarten the next morning, and I would have her there late so many times. The teacher would call and make sure I was up in the morning, so I could get her there on time. So, understanding those needs, childcare is important, and that's why I support, limiting a family's childcare expenses to just 7% of their income. It'll help bring daycare workers, childcare workers into the industry, and allow parents to get back to work if they want. So that experience, I wouldn't trade it for anything in my life, but it was the longest 2 years of my life before I met my wife, Pepper, and we've now been married for 26 years and have 4 more children.
Oh,
That is
love
beautiful.
that. I love that. Well,
Gary, you are winning us over. Okay.
right.
You are. All right. So our friend Roger, are you there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Everyone buckle up. You can go ahead. I want to thank our host and our moderator for the evening, our mentor and our board member for Changemakers Community. He has supported us from the very beginning. He is a warrior and a freedom fighter for so many years in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and abroad. That is Dr. Apostle J.B. Pressey. We appreciate you and we thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Roger from the community, from Fort Wayne community, smart man, a man of the community. Do you have some questions for our politicians and our potential elected officials?
Just a couple. Well, I have a couple and a couple general as well. First of all, I heard a lot about this new jail. Where are they planning on building it?
And these questions are for anyone.
Well, let me say this, Roger. I was on a meeting this morning, and right now everything is suspect. They're doing a lot of talking right now. Nobody really knows exactly where this new jail is supposed to be located. They're doing a lot of conversations right now, but I do know this. I do know that before they started this conversation, they've talked to individuals on the northwest side of Fort Wayne, the southwest side of Fort Wayne, the northeast side of Fort Wayne, and they were told under no circumstances would you consider putting a jail in those locations. And so the speculation right now is that there's only one place that they're going to take a look at, and that's on the southeast somewhere. And if they do that on the southeast, it's going to be a tragedy because the southeast have low housing stock, is in low development. And if you put a jail on the southeast end of Fort Wayne, it's going to drive housing prices that's already tumbling down further. So we don't know where it's going to be. We're in a lot of discussions right now. As a matter of fact, if you're interested, on the 30th, there's a group we are meeting, trying to provide information, and we will be meeting from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the fellowship hall of New Zion Tabernacle as an information on getting people's thoughts about what they're thinking about, what they're hearing about, what is happening with this new jail here in Fort Wayne.
Thanks so much, Dr. Percy. Does any of our politicians have anything to add to that?
Well, mine is, the position I'm going for is the most relevant. Even though
Alicia.
State House makes the laws, federal could help us out because there's a federal judge that came up with the ruling that we need to get a new jail. So we feel federal can kind of help.
We'll keep doing it.
County follow the law, but the jail, they haven't, from my understanding, they have not said where they want to build it, and that's an issue. What I was saying about their 10-minute meetings on Friday mornings, not cutting it, it's just shows the lack of transparency from the county commissioners. What are they even thinking? We don't. All we're hearing is rumors. I mean, I think we should have better than that from our local elected officials. Like a rumor I heard was, Byron Health actually on the Northwest Allen. And, the thing is that that's already county owned property, even though it's in high demand area. So it'll be interesting if they actually went with that, but they don't have much options now at this point. I don't think there's going to be a lot of place in center of Southeast side, Southeast Fort Wayne that they're going to be able to do enough that has enough acreage that they have, that the county, because you can't just private ownership of the homes down there. So it's not just all vacant lots. There's people that own homes down there, even a lot of rentals. So they can't just just get that property. There's going to be people that don't want to sell. Maybe they try to offer a buyout, but they can't. You can't assume that they can get that property on this, enough acreage on the southeast side, and there'll be a suitable location. So Byron Health is a big facility. So presumably that they could probably build with their, I'm guessing, without any problem. So I guess that's why they're looking for now that they've pretty much out of their options. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, obviously the county has, I think, some eminent domain powers, which allows them to like take private property and give like a certain amount for it.
That was going to be my next question.
Last resort kind of thing. You don't want to like resort to the first thing, be eminent domain. That would be bad. So if they can use Byron House, I would assume they would do that. But
Thanks for the answer.
So, I mean, like, I hear your assumption, right? And I think your assumption is coming from a good place. Unfortunately, I don't have the same opinion of the people who are making the decisions thought process. I don't think that they're coming from a good place. And the reason why, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The reason why I say that is just like when I think of opportunity zones and the spirit in which something like that was created to help areas like the Southeast side, but instead they used it to help downtown. You see what I'm saying? And then I think about what's the purpose for not telling the community about things like opportunity zones, not making the areas that something like that was created in the spirit for, to not then use that, but then to prop up the projects to prop up the projects in the areas that you have delegated. I mean, like they're kind of building on the proverbial back of poor folks in the community, because they're redefining what it was actually created in the spirit of. Right. So I apologize about that little rant, but it just kind of went there. Gary, I have a question for you. You say that you were talking about some stuff like capping prescription costs, getting rid of student loan debts. You sound more like a progressive, bro. So I was just kind of like wondering how your overall ideology works, having progressive ideals, but on a Democratic ticket.
Well, I think I would consider my wife, who ran for Congress in 2016 as a libertarian against Jim Banks. She would call me a communist. I would consider myself more of a moderate. Now, Jim Banks is going to do everything he can to call me, a radical left. But let me ask you this: what's more radical? Supporting building our bridges and roads and infrastructure and creating jobs, or voting against it? What's more radical? Capping prescription drugs, especially insulin, at $35 a month, or giving tax breaks to the wealthiest Hoosiers and Americans and corporations, and instead of capping insulin prices? What's more radical? Having people pay upwards of 25 to 30% of their income for childcare, or capping it at 7% of a family's income. So, I've been called a lot of things through this campaign so far. I've had people that are left of me, not happy with me. I've had people on the right definitely not happy with me. So I would say that I'm more of a moderate, but I'm looking out for working class families. I'm looking out for union families. I support the PRO Act. When unions are strong, working families are strong. Veterans benefits. I'm watching out for veterans. I'm for the burn pit bill that would allow veterans that have served around these burn pits to get benefits and compensation for those injuries. I was always for the eVest Act, which automatically enrolls veterans into the VA. Jim Banks voted against that. I'm for the infrastructure bill that's going to build our new roads. It's going to repair our bridges. It's going to bring internet out to places like where I live. I'm sitting at my daughter's right now because I don't have internet out at my house that's strong enough to be on a Zoom call. So, I would ask, which one is really more radical? where I'm at or where Jim Banks is at. Now, I will say this, I am in a primary. I do have 2 opponents come May 3rd. But I am the only candidate that has taken positions on these. Matter of fact, I'm the only candidate who's taken positions, and I'm the one that's more uniquely qualified than anyone that's ever run against Jim Banks to beat him. Jim Banks is going to know I'm there, and I'm going to hit him right between the eyes with the baseball bat of reality. So we're not going to go down without a fight, and I'm the only candidate that can do that.
I have I got just a couple more questions and then I'm done. For Gary, for you again.
Okay.
In terms of criminal justice, can you tell me in your own words the difference between habilitating and rehabilitating?
Well, rehabilitating is taking someone, and I'll focus on that because that's probably what I'm most familiar with. So, when someone goes into the criminal justice system, whether it's drug seems to be the big one today, it's important to take that person, they're in there to be punished. But if we don't try to rehabilitate when they get out, they're just going to be a more, say, a wiser criminal than when they went in. So I think rehabilitation plays a role in no matter what someone goes into jail for. I don't know if that necessarily answers your question, but it's the best I have right now. Since you're running as a state U.S. representative, and as well as the state representatives as well, just in terms of criminal justice is just something that I've noticed that a lot of people aren't aware of. To rehabilitate somebody means to return them to a former way of thinking. To habilitate somebody means to give them a new way of thinking, a new path to travel, to habilitate them in a new way. More times than not, what I see with people that are coming home, they are rehabilitated because they have a change in thought process while they're down, but by the time they get out, because they haven't learned any type of new skills to habilitate them in a new direction, they end up going back to what they were once doing before because it's not something that they want to do, but it's problem resolution that they're doing. If they're usually doing something that has to do with feeding a need or some type of conflict that they have in their life, and they're just simply not learning those skills to be able to keep them out, but they're expected to perform in a new way once they get out. So that's just something for you to think about. Thank you for that. I mean that sincerely.
Yeah. There was one more thing. I have a list of stuff. I was trying to keep a lot of notes. The last thing I want to say is that for James, experience in politics is important, bro, as important it is for you to be an individual of good character in politics. At least from what I see, you can surround yourself with the experts, bro. And then just, be that individual who makes those good, sound decisions as opposed to selling out for corporations. With that, I yield.
That's true. That's true. Did you ask me a question or you were making
I was listening to you and I had jotted that down for myself because I try to tell everybody all the time. They say, well, I don't have any experience. And I'm like, bro, you really don't need experience to run for office. To start off with being an individual of good character. You need to be an individual of good character, and you need to listen to individuals who already have expertise in environment, expertise in different things, and then make sound decisions based on that good information.
Exactly. Surround yourself around people who have the same goals as yourself.
Oh, I found my last question now. I promise I'll yield. This is for Mr. Fernandez, county that's running for county commissioner.
Yeah.
What do you see? And I'm asking you this on purpose. What do you see being your biggest obstacle towards getting elected?
I think my biggest obstacle is I think the party affiliation of the party lean of the county, but I think we can overcome that if we get voter turnout from from groups that have been historically marginalized. I mean, voter turnout on the southeast side is you look at numbers in elections, and it's about half that of an average, or sorry, I should say average, half that of many of the other areas of the it will say city, county. There's populations on Northwest Allen, Southwest Allen that have turnouts probably 3 times as much as in the southeast side of Fort Wayne. So you can see the voter suppression that our state has done, and that we need people on the federal level, we need people on the state level that are going to work against that voter suppression. And unfortunately, even if I get elected, the commissioners can't really do anything substantial in election law. They can raise the wage of poll workers and maybe get more people to work the polls, but the election law is really state driven, and the federal government can help with civil rights legislation like for the People's Act. So voter suppression is going to be an issue. People making sure that people are able to get out and vote. Allen County has.
Jorge, can I say something right there? Because I think that if we focus on just voter suppression, I think we're really gonna, not really progress. It's not really just voter suppression. I think that's why we're actually having a panel like this. We really have to focus on our politicians here, because it's really because the voter potential is there. So we have to focus on potential. Our politicians are not really following through, because if we look at the presidential election, the voters came out, but our politicians did not follow through.
It's like, what do we get? What do we get now?
Let me say, our politicians came through. I mean, our voters came out, but our politicians gave us nothing. Exactly. So I think that that's what we have to look at. Even with the voter suppression being there, the voters came out, but our politicians never followed through. So I think that what we really have to look at is that when our politicians say they're going to do something for those communities, they have to make sure that they give us what they say they're going to give us. There has to be something on the other side. This is why this year, I said that this is why we're doing panels like this. We ask, what can you do for our votes? Our votes are no longer going to come for free. Not for the Democratic Party, not for the Republican Party, not for anyone. And that's what I'm saying. So we can no longer say that people are not coming out to vote. No, we're not coming out to vote for nothing anymore.
I'm going to jump. Okay. May I jump in with you? Sure. A couple things that I've really run into, and it's been just really disheartening for me. People not knowing the difference between general election and primary election, and what the difference is between them. So even when I give out my flyers, I'm giving out flyers that state the difference between the general and the primary. When I knock on people's doors, they say I pull an all Democratic ticket. And I say, okay, I need you can't just go pull an all Democratic ticket in a primary. So I have to explain that to get to even why I've even decided to run for office. So the education portion is definitely needed also. And then another thing is, when you're having things of this nature, if people don't feel like they're benefiting right now, sometimes people aren't participating. So we have to get out of the benefiting right now period, and how is it going to benefit me in the long run?
True.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I'm not saying okay, blaming Southeast Fort Wayne. We got to look at historical racism.
Yes, I knew that, Jorge. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you all. I have to go. I apologize.
Thank you, Roger.
You guys have a great day. Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye. I knew that, Jorge.
Yeah. And but they have to, you have to have the people know why they should come out. Absolutely. I mean, you need an education component. And it's not, this is not just a problem that's unique to any specific area. I mean, the lack of voter education is a big issue. And I think, if we just look at the maps, for example, that's something that people are like, where can I find these maps and stuff? They, when they first released the maps for the state Indiana House, the new maps, they're in a format where you couldn't really see where things were in Allen County. So, part of this is intentional, the lack of, access to the information. Yes, it's out there, but part of it is not, is to keep people in the dark and not realize that, oh yeah, there's these primaries going on, and you pick a ballot and then you go, you vote in the primary if you have never voted in a primary before. You have to pick the actual people, in that primary, and then general election, you can pick, you can vote party line, but ideally, about the individual candidates, because it's the individual candidates getting elected, not the party. So, voter education is a constant need, and it's not, any one demographic group that has an issue with voter education.
That's right. Did anyone else have anything to add? I just wanted to tell you guys that we really appreciate you all coming out. We thank you all for staying an extra 26 minutes as well. Education is so important to us. We really aim to demystify politics, because we know that in our community specifically, and so many others, education is the key. We are learning every single day. And we aim for our community to learn alongside us.
Mm-hmm.
So we listen to them. They tell us what they want to learn. And so this is really what they wanted. We know that people are going to be watching this video. This video is going to be live on Facebook and YouTube. You guys are going to be on the news again. We wish you all luck with your campaigns. We know that this is win-win, because you have power whether you win or lose. Your community is going to listen to you whether you win or lose. We are not politicians, but we have power in our voices, and that's what we want to get across to people, that you can have a lot of power in your community whether you are a politician or not. We actually have more power not being politicians, and so this is win-win for all of us. Please continue to work in your communities and answer our emails and our calls, because we might send them to you, so please answer. Is there anything else, Alicia?
The only thing I would like to say is, I appreciate you guys coming on here a lot. I've learned so much having these conversations, and I know that there are so many people in the community that they go out and just click, oh, I'll vote all Democrat, don't even know who the people are, don't know what they do, but they still feel like they need change in their community or whatever, and they just don't know how, they don't know what you guys do. And so I think it's important for people to understand exactly what you can do for us, what your jobs are, what you guys are doing, rather than just your name and your title. And so I appreciate you guys coming out. I've learned so much during this process in the last few years, and I wish you guys all the best. It was amazing. And
can I ask one more question?
Look,
have you guys ever had an interview like this?
This has been a really intense interview, but I've done quite a few, but this has been one,
Gary, have you ever been asked questions like this? Like throughout this campaign this year, have you asked questions?
Not through the campaign this year, but to be fair, I was a radio talk show host for about 4 years.
Oh,
you heard it all.
Yeah.
And interviewed people like Dr. Susan Rice, Ambassador Susan Rice.
Oh, okay.
So not this year, but boy, you guys should might have a future
radio show.
I was just gonna say they should do stuff like this more often. Podcast. I do the podcast too, so
Well, thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you guys on the campaign trail. Good night.
All right, good night.
Yeah.